Hi everybody and welcome back to Sandling Junction and welcome to my flocking disaster. Honestly, I can't make this stuff up even if I tried. So what's this video all about? Well, as the name suggests, I've done the first bit of green scenery to Sandling Junction and I have made an absolute hash of it. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And what can I say in my defense? Well, I actually have no defense at all other than bad planning. And I thought long and hard about bringing this video to you because there's so much material that I could have used within it when I was sort of editing it all down that it would have been about 2 days long. And I felt, what can I do to make this sort of bring the point across? And so hopefully when you watch this you'll see my dilemmas, my problems and my lack of planning and where I went wrong. So there's no need to write any comments in there, I should have done this or should have done that. Those things I already know and I thank you for your interest in that area anyway. But I also want to put a disclaimer in at this point that at no point in this video am I knocking any company whatsoever. I might sound as though I am on occasions, but that's purely frustration. But even with talking with John from Green Scenes, who has been extremely helpful and trying to narrow down why the whole thing went completely wrong, we probably come to the conclusion that it may have been down to the paint, but it's certainly down to me more than anything else. And he extremely kindly said that again. He didn't have to, but he was really kind and he actually replaced all the 2mm static grass that I had used up in this first disaster, and that was very kind of him, so I appreciate that, John. Thank you so much. But yes, as I say, the products from any company that I'm talking about during the course of this video have been sold, tried and tested by tons of modelers, not just in the UK but the world over, and proven to be absolutely excellent until they get into my hands, and then it all goes wrong. So yeah, that's what this video is about. And if for no other reason than if you're starting to do some scenery on your own layer, then I hope that some of the things that I do or show you or talk about in this video pre-warn you not to do the same things. And I've got to give a shout out to Tim from Scrapline, because he put out a masterful video on doing static work and realistic scenery, and I think if you go over to his channel, it's number 15, realistic scenery. He's got a lot more in there as well, but that one in particular deals with exactly what I'm doing here. And I remember watching it some time ago and putting a nice comment to it saying, I'm going to sort of like remember to do all this sort of stuff when it comes to my turn. And yeah, I completely forgot all of that, and I just went in like a mere amateur. And I suppose I am to a point. I'm not suggesting I'm anything more than that, but I'm trying to say that I didn't give any of it enough thought. And even when I look back to how I laid the static grass in the first place, it was just like a carpet, and it was crazy. Now I could have unrolled and cut a little bit of sort of artificial grass and done the same thing. Not quite, but you know what I mean. So lots of mistakes have been made, and I am at an impasse right now because I've rewatched Tim's video, realised that I have had an absolute catastrophe, collective errors, and I've got to make amends for that. So I've got to put an order in for a few more products that I don't actually have, and I will wait for those to come before I do this. But I think what will happen now is that this video will deal with the absolute mess that I've made and my financial losses as a result of that. And then the next video I put out will be, I hope, a bit like Tim's video where I actually try and get it right. And although it won't be as good as Tim would have done, but hopefully it will be marked improvement on what I've been doing so far, and it will look a little bit realistic, and hopefully by the end of it you'll realize that that's not the way to put static grass on, do any flocking, and you will not have a flocking disaster as I have. So without further ado, let's get on with this video, and I'll catch each and every one of you in the very next one. Take care, happy modeling, all the best to you guys, bye bye. Hi guys, and welcome back to a new update and almost a new month. And I've got to say, for once I'm actually ahead of myself, so that's good news. Now what I'm doing is carrying on from the last update, and it's really to do with all this area, reconfiguring it after I tore up the harbour scene. I've laid the cork, the track's not laid, but I've laid the cork, and what I've done is I've got a lovely sweepy bend going down that board as it goes into the tunnel area. You probably can't quite see it on here, but today's job is probably to lay those two pieces of track and do one or two other jobs. Now the problem is here, I really didn't think this part through at all, did I? Because what have I got? Under there, under this area here, under there, get rid of that board, but under there is where I plan to put 2 3-way points. The problem is I'm not going to be able to get access to there to drill the pilot holes for the point motors, and it's bad enough trying to do a single point, but 2 3-ways, that's 4-point holes, and God knows what else is going to go in there. So I've got two choices, because the idea was to have the 3-ways hidden and then just going into the tunnel area here with 2 tracks. That was the plan, and then I could have a couple of nice sort of arched entries under the cliff, as it were, or through the cliff face. That was what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, it means that I've got to take all this TMD off, disturb all the tracks that are already laid up there, which I've already done once, and it looks like I may have to do again if I want to put the 3-ways underneath this section. Now it might mean that it's probably the best way forward. If I want to do what I intend to do is a little bit of chalk cliff all the way around the front here and round there. I don't know if you can see all this mess on the table here. Now this table was sort of temporarily placed to suggest where I can do some modelling and some work, in addition to the one that's behind it over there. Now I actually have, with the permission of my good lady wife, secured a small room upstairs that I am going to do my airbrushing in and my sort of weathering in generally. So this table may stay, may go. It may be just for scenic work that I can do on and off of the layout. This will suffice for the moment anyway until I get to that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the change round in that area. But okay everyone, welcome back. Now I've done what I said I was going to do, and the track is down, it's glued, the droppers are in although not connected, and the weights are on. I've done nothing about this top section yet. That will wait for another day. But I'm coming down here now, and I stopped it at the point where the 2 lengths of track ended, and that's as far as I've gone with it. But I did have a look at this area here that I spoke about earlier. Now, one possible relief is the fact that there is a slot in the top of the TMD here that takes the shed. And I'm hoping that I can get a long drill bit through and onto the open area where I need them under here and this section here. I'm hoping they'll line up, and without having to take the whole of that TMD shelf off and disturb other track, which I really rather not have to do. But I will come back to this next week and lift all the weights and wire up that bit of track, put some buffer ends on here so I don't run trains off onto the floor, and then I will look at this on another day. I'm not really that bothered about it right now. It's something that I can turn my attention to, so maybe next week I want to get on with some scenic work, and that would be fantastic. Alright, catch you all soon. Okay, so another week's gone by, and as I said just now, I haven't done an awful lot, but I do plan on making a start on some scenery. I'm leaving the last bit of track over the other side for another day. I just want to play around with some green stuff up around the end of these sidings here on Sandling. Now, I haven't done any static grass since my last diorama, and that's got to be over a year or so back. And before that, it was the old no-name Junction layout that had any static grass work done. I've learned a lot since then, but I actually haven't done a lot since then. So I didn't want to go ploughing straight in with a whole heap of area being done and then realise that it doesn't look very good and want to start again. So I'm just going to literally play around up here and see what happens. Okay, everybody, well, I have been cutting and playing around with this so that I've got everything just about where I want it in terms of length and small cuts. I've had to cut a lot of fragments off different pieces so that it all works where I want it to, and I am so grateful that I got this device. Now, I have a portable Dremel, a battery Dremel, and it's been invaluable, but then buying this additional flexible arm gives me the ability to cut rail and straight edges, because you can get much lower down and get a very, very clean edge. So that has become absolutely invaluable, and it really cuts through this, you know, knife through hot butter. Of course it would, it's just going through plastics, but it gives you a lovely straight clean edge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark all these pieces so that I know exactly where they come, and I'm going to put a corresponding mark on here so that I can really identify. I'm a little bit worried about this area here because this has got a bow in it from where it's been stored. Now, I don't know how that may affect things. I think once it's glued down, it won't cause me any problems. Static grass, what fun. And I'm looking forward to it, gotta say. Now, this is pretty much everything I've got, and it's not a lot, as you can see. I used this a few years ago when I did No Name Junction, and I haven't really needed much more than this for the few diorama bits that I've done since then. Okay, well, I've had some fun today, and I have finally got some green stuff on Sandling Junction. I really am quite pleased with it. Now, it's probably not the best. I haven't done any serious landscaping as such on a layout since 2017. And that was No Name Junction. So this really and truly, apart from a couple of diorama pieces that I've done, this is the first bit of serious scenic work that I've done, albeit very, very small. Hi guys, welcome back. Well, the last time you saw this, it was all scenic up, grass was there, and it looked, well, I thought it looked pretty good. Until I took some photographs of it and sent it to a colleague and a friend, and the answer was that it actually looked awful, and the reason it just looked so yellow, acidic and terrible. And I'd used sort of Woodland Scenics, got to admit, and I really just got it all wrong, and it looked, well, it looked terrible. So I decided to take it all off while it was still soft. And I bit the bullet, and I had to buy into a product that, has to be said, is meant to be the best out there, but it is not cheap by any means. This is just a portion of what I bought. This is from Green Scenes, and in fairness, there's about £23.50 worth there. Doesn't look it, does it? But there is. It doesn't come cheap, but I am told it is a great one. So with that in mind, I took all this off, and I have invested in this and the straw under the advice of John. Now, John's the guy who owns the company. I think he's recently retiring and selling it on to Squires, but in the short term, I had a long conversation with him on the phone. He gave me a lot of advice, so I thank him for that. And that entails some of this. And one thing he did say was that if you come in with a sort of waterproof seal, waterproof paint, i.e. acrylic paint or good household paint, but in green, then this will, you won't need so thick a carpet of this on here. And you can get away with this being a little thinner, especially with the straw and other colours, and then adding on extra layers afterwards. So what I plan on doing is that I'm going to coat this all up as far as I can with some of this, let that dry overnight. I also want to do a little bit of a test with some of this, so I'm going to have a little bit of board that I'm going to paint green as well, and then I'm going to do a little area with this. And I did happen to buy the new tool, the Flocket. I did have an old one, which is the old well, it's a WWS one now, but it is the old Pico version of it, and it's not that good, I don't think. And I've learned a lot about static grass, got to be said, and I will go into that in a lot more detail. So for the time being, I'm just going to crack on and paint all this green. Catch you all later. Hi everybody, welcome back. It's another morning, and I'm about to have a go at this little test with the Green Scenes products, and I have no idea how they're going to work and how they're going to turn out, and I am taking stock of the advice that John gave me from Green Scenes, and one of them is to wear a pair of gloves like this, because the glue that you use for putting this stuff down is not your conventional one that you would buy from other manufacturers. It's a water-based product. I have no idea. It looks like a PVA. It looks like a bit like a tacky glue. I have no idea of its properties, and I am just working purely on buying the company's product and giving it a good old test. So the flock cement is that you can put it down and you can smear it on, and therefore you don't need as much as you think. And when you put your first layer of grasses on, hopefully the green will mean that you don't need as much of this going down as you might think. So I'm going to put some of this down, and I have bought myself one of these. I do have the Pico one, but I understand that for the money, these are hand built and by John, and they, yeah, hopefully it will do the job. It's got a very fine mesh on here, but it's got a great big metal plate in the back there with a very long projection. If you can see that in there, you can see the long screw that comes up, which keeps all the static fibres active. And well, time will tell, I see. Now I'm told that part of the cost is the quality. This is not Chinese made, as I understand from John. These are made in Germany, and this is rayon and not nylon, and gives a straighter filament, unlike the Chinese nylon products. You can make of that as you wish. I don't know. I'm only repeating what I've been told. So I would not know rayon from nylon, Germany from China. But I'm simply saying that that's what I've been told. And so I'm hoping that this will do the job. Is to put it on. It is just like a tacky glue. Has to be said. Those of you who know what tacky glue is like will know exactly what I'm on about. Okay, now this glue is going quite a long way. I've got a bit of sort of rough texture on some of this, so I can't always spread it around with my fingers. I need it to get into some of those crevices that I've created when I did this. Okay, so here we go. Now what I've done is I've mixed up my green. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to move along here and do some more. I'm going to let that dry up now, and we shall see what we shall see. I'm not too unhappy with it. I think it's okay. Okay, end of last week, I got all my stuff from Green Scenes. John sent them all down to me in good time, and I was able to do the flocking on Sunday, which was fantastic. I was so looking forward to it. I followed everything that he said to the letter. I waterproofed all the surfaces with acrylic paint so that the glue that he supplied would not dry out and prematurely, and I also added the glue by brush, so it was a little bit thicker, so that it was actually, you know, a lot more chance of taking, no problems. And 2.5 days later, with a temperature in here that's not damp and not sort of awful. I couldn't keep my trains in it if it was, but this is what greeted me. I touched it because I came in to see exactly what I'd need to do next, and as I touched this stuff, it was just pulling away. It was just falling away. It's as if I just laid it there without any glue at all. and I can't think that this is correct. Now I know two other large channels that have used his product with great success, and they swear by it, and that's why I went to the company to get their product as well on the basis of that. But I can only assume that it's got something to do with the glue, because I sealed the surfaces with acrylic paint so that they are waterproof and that there is no absorbent surface, and I may as well not have bothered. It just did not work at all. And so right now I'm about 40 odd quid down on my investment into this product, with nothing to show for it except a mess. And so I will be talking to the company. I'm sure we'll get it sorted out, and I'm sure it's just down to some advice that I've been given, or indeed the glue has not worked. But I'm going to do a little test, and that test will be using the glue supplied against Mod Podge and some PVA, and I'm going to set that up and let that go off and see what happens. And I'm going to do it all on a painted surface so that I have the same set of the same situation basically. So that's what I'm going to do now, and I'll come back and let you know how we get on again. Okay, so this is a little test on the Green Scenes product, which is a catastrophic fail, and I don't believe it's got anything to do with either this or indeed the contents of the flock. I think that it's down to this that's caused the problem, or whether I was wrongly advised to put a waterproof paint down, i.e. acrylic paint down to begin with. So what I'm going to do is a very simple test. I'm going to put on, I haven't got much of the product left. I've recovered much or quite a bit of what was put down, but whether or not that's tainted because it may have glue particles in it, so I don't want to use it for this. I want to be as fair as I can. This is all the fresh product that I've actually got left in the whole world right now. So I'm going to put out some PVA, and this is just internal PVA. We've all seen it, we all know it. Now I've been told that you shouldn't flock with PVA. Now I've done it all on this green painted surface, and I'm going to put a larger square area there, but I'm going to make a very thin amount here. In fact, I'm going to use my fingers to smear that, because that's how this product was suggested that I could use it, just by smearing it on the surface. I'm going to put that glue down. I'm going to go to the second one, which is Mod Podge Matte, fresh tube. That was a fresh bottle of Evo Stick. This is a fresh bottle of Mod Podge, freshly opened. Put a lot of paint on here, so we got a nice thick amount. So I don't know if I've got enough product to do this whole thing anyway, but this is Mod Podge. Very different looking consistency to PVA. I'm going to put some down here, and as I did just now, I'm going to put on a smear this on. Alright, let's put that glue down, and let's go to what I think is the offending article, and that is this PVA. It's quite sticky, it's quite tacky. I'm going to put a thick amount down, and this is not unlike the sort of quantity that I was putting down over this product here. Because I had crevices, I wanted to make sure that it was well covered with glue. Now I was told that I didn't need to put this much down, make it all go further. I could just put so much on, and with some surgery type gloves I could smear it around, and that would be more than ample to grab the glue. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to put that down like that, and I hope there is enough of this left to do the job with. I'm going to come in here first, so it can't be sort of drying up on me too much. I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to put the flocking on. Come over here, do the same on here. I don't think there's an awful lot on here or left in here. so it may not be a very thick carpet, but I will do what I can with what I've got. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the continuing saga of my flocking disaster. and what's happened since the last bit of update? Well, I cleared off as much as I could. Little bits of it had grabbed where the glue was deeper, and I'd had a long conversation with the gentleman of the company, and he and I sort of talked over everything and what had happened. Now, I've got to say, and I said it at the start, and I'm saying it again, that this is not any sort of comeback on company. The product has been sold for many, many years, both the glue and the flock, and I know many people who have used it with, well, it's in fact, it's their advice and their recommendation that I went to it in the first place. So I know the product works. For some reason it didn't work for me, and the gentleman concerned and I talked about it, and it would seem that although his advice initially was to make sure that the surface was waterproof, and I thought by putting acrylic paint down it would be so, because obviously acrylic paint is pure plastic, but it may not have been so. I don't know. I don't know the chemistry. I do not know the physics of the whole thing. I just assumed that plastic paint on a surface would seal it, but apparently it may not have done. It could have been possible that the paint has got a pressure sensitive nature and therefore it did not adhere the glue that well, or if it did, it certainly didn't hold, or it dried out the glue too fast. So I've got to say that what I've done is I took some of the reclaim stuff and I've tried it here with some PVA, which is the Pico basing glue. I assume it's PVA, but whatever their basing glue is made of, I've used some of the recycled stuff just to see if that is any good. I've then gone straight over a section with just some brown paint, just to see how that noise you keep hearing. We're right in the middle of Storm Eunice and it's really pumping up now. Yeah, we're going head to head with Eunice down in the southeast, 80 and 90 mile an hour winds, so every so often I stop to look out because something's gone crashing through. Anyway, back to the saga. Yeah, I put some brown on. The advice was to paint green underneath, and actually when I thought about it, and the advice from somebody else was to go back to the brown, because if you want any dead patches of grass, you don't want really green showing through. So I'm going back to painting these areas all in brown. So what I've done is I've just painted this section up to here with the brown over the top of all the old grass. Not a lot I can do about it. It's so patchy, there's just no other way forward. And I can't get it all off without destroying half the scenery. So up here, and I will just swing the camera up, and hopefully without making it go all giddy, I can get this to come slowly in. There we are. And what I've done up in this whole area from here all the way around there is I've just gone over with neat Mod Podge matte, and that is over the old grasses that still remain. You can see how patchy it is and how much came away. Okay everybody, welcome back. Just as a final thought to this whole disaster movie, I just wanted to give you a little update with regards to the test that I did with the different glues and what I found out and what I feel is the problem moving forward. So here we go. That's what I did, and if you can remember, I actually used, let's get this round the right way. This was the PVA, this was the Mod Podge, and this was indeed the Green Scenes glue. Now, thick and thin, I did them all just as a test on the paint that I've been using, which is a common or garden acrylic paint, artist acrylic paint, nothing more. It may be that the artist acrylic paint is too pressure sensitive. I know that if you use it, and you can almost create a fabric with acrylic paint if you keep layering it, but it is a pressure sensitive material when you do that. I'm wondering if that chemistry has something to do with this whole scenario, this whole saga. But I've got to say that, you know, the grab of all of them smearing, well, I've rubbed them, and you can see that actually the green scenes did hold up better than the other two, although the PVA did quite well. That said, any loss is not good enough. So I then put the thicker amounts on. As you can see now, this is the green scenes, this is the Mod Podge, and this is the PVA. All of them, with the exception maybe of the Mod Podge a little bit, that could have been because it's a little thinner and it's not as thick as these two when you apply it. So where you sort of pull the brush down and you get a thin bit, it probably will lose out to that. So generally where it's thicker, it holds it, this holds it, this holds it. So if you accept then that the glues are okay, and although I did earlier in this video have my suspicions, the glues are okay. It's the application and the surface. It has to be down to this paint. So what I would suggest to each and every one of you, that if you are going to seal your surface to do any gluing and what have you, then maybe use a good PVA, a good Mod Podge to seal it, as opposed to trying to paint it and relying upon the acrylic paint to do that job. In fact, I really did lay, you saw in the last part of the video, and I will just throw a clip to that, that I did do a little bit of reflocking at the end there with the recovered products that I'd lost on this part, and I used the Pico basing glue for that, and I laid it quite liberally. It still gave way, it still lifted, and I'll show you that in a moment. So I'm just going to end this now. I'm going to end this flocking disaster, and I'm going to do a little bit of running for a few minutes because it's already a very long video, and thank you very much for staying with it this long if you're still here. And I will return next month with what I hope to be a flocking triumph. I can't say that with a straight face. Yeah, from the ashes of disaster, they say, and the phoenix, I hope, will rise. So hopefully next month I will have a much more positive video for you to enjoy, where I can get to grips with the whole series of the diorama and start thinking the process through, instead of just throwing the stuff down and hoping it will all land in the right place and stay where it put and look good at the end, which of course it's not going to do that. If you want it to look really good, if you want it to look really real, then you have to put your mind to it, you have to think about it, you have to look at photos of the outside world, and especially around train embankments and all those sorts of things, just to see what it actually looks like. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to make a start on it today, and I will start putting the footage for you for the next video. So until that time, wherever you are, if you've enjoyed it, give this a thumbs up and add your comments. As always, thank you very much for your support, and if you're a subscriber, fantastic. If you're not, please hit the subscribe button, that would be fantastic. Click the bell icon on the notifications, it lets you know every time I put out a new video. I have to say, it's not that often at the moment. My painting channel is taking a lot of my time, so I put a video out on Sandling Junction as often as possible. But hey, take care everybody, happy modelling, stay safe wherever you are, bye bye.